Okay. I think we have just about everybody entered, and if they come in, I'll be sure to add them here in a little bit. But I do want to get started and respect everybody's time tonight. As a reminder, my name is Shelby Boatman, and I'm the executive director of the Clinton County Historical Society, also known as the History Center here in Wilmington. And we've really worked hard with our local committee to develop some Black History Month programming, as well as some Women's History Month programming, which will be coming up in March. So I think this will match really well with both of those months. And we in Wilmington actually don't have oral histories well documented or video history of our Black history in the community. So I thought it would be great to reach out to our neighbors in Highland County and allow them to share their story with us about desegregation of their Hillsboro schools. And the women on screen will be introducing them after the video. But as a short reminder, the Lincoln Marching Mothers were active from 1954 to 1956. And they were working to desegregate the Hillsboro schools due to segregation of white and Black schools, which we'll learn about in the video shortly. But we really hope that you enjoy this program tonight. It's slated to last just an hour of your time. And if you'd like to learn more about the Clinton County Historical Society, please visit our website, clintoncountyhistory.org. And you can also learn more about the Lincoln Marching Mothers on their website, which is Lincoln Marching Mothers. Here, Lincoln Marching Mothers. Give me just a second to pull it up. Lincoln School, Hillsboro, Ohio.weebly.com. They do have a site that you can learn more following this program. And the Hillsboro or the Highland County Historical Society has also been instrumental in this program. So I do want to give them a shout out and thank you for allowing us to include this. So without further ado, I am going to begin our video. It's about 17 minutes long, and it gives you a nice oral history about what the women that you're going to meet here in a minute really went through and experienced through their childhoods and as mothers trying to really get the best education for their children. So let me go ahead and pop this up for everybody.
I was born here in Hillsboro, Ohio, and I was raised here in Hillsboro, Ohio, and I still live here.
A very pretty city, a lot of old homes. There seemed to be a lot to do in Hillsboro when I was a child.
My husband's cousin talked us into coming to Hillsboro in 1934. They were building the high school, and he thought he would get him a job. It was good in a way.
We were always in each other's houses and yards playing together. It was a very close-knit neighborhood.
In some ways, Hillsboro wasn't any different than a lot of Midwestern towns. There was segregation in our nation.
Most of the colored people, they lived either on East End or the Northeast Street.
There's a lot of places we weren't allowed to go, like a lot of the restaurants.
You didn't eat in the restaurants. You got your food, you got it in a bag, and you left.
I do remember the movie theater had a Black section, but it was just routine that the Black people sat in a certain section.
I went outside to play, and they did hopscotch and jump rope. But they apologized to me and told me, though, that if their parents come by and saw them playing with me, then they would be in trouble. So it bothered me so bad that I spent most of my time inside.
In the 1950s, the schools were segregated. There was a Black school called Lincoln Elementary for the Black students, and there were two other elementaries for the white students, one on the west end of town called Webster, and one on the east end of town called Washington.
The thing that I most remember about the Lincoln School was that it was really in bad shape.
When we were at the Lincoln School, there was 3 grades into one class. That was first, second, and third, and then the other room was fourth, fifth, and sixth. I remember the bathrooms being in the basement. And our books, half of them didn't have pages or missing.
The white schools, they had books that we didn't have. They had like geography, they had maps, they had history books, and science. Those books we didn't have.
In May 1954, the United States Supreme Court in Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, declared segregation in schools illegal when it was based on race.
So once that decision was made, then what happens in Hillsboro? Well, Philip Partridge, the county engineer, he had gone to the school board and said, you know, we need to start integrating, this school needs to go away, it's substandard.
Mr. Partridge had talked to the school board to try to get them to put the children in the other schools, and they wouldn't do it.
He went to the Lincoln School, poured oil and gasoline on the floors and walls, and set the building on fire to end segregation in Hillsboro. Within a couple of days, he turned himself in because he did not want the African American community blamed. He was found guilty of both arson and breaking and entering and sent to prison.
The school board met and decided we'll sink money back into the Lincoln School. So they spent $4,000 to fix it up and send the colored kids back to their school rather than integrate, but Brown had been passed.
So when the fall of 1954 came, the expectation from the school board was that all elementary African American children would still attend Lincoln.
When you have a fire in a building, like a 2-story at least, there's problem with collapsing. So I didn't want my children to be hurt.
It was just a time that we had to realize that we were not to go back to that school.
They went before the school board as concerned citizens and requested that their children be allowed to attend the white schools of Washington and Webster.
We got together with the meeting, NAACP, and different ones said that they wasn't sending their children back to Lincoln.
The response to the decision to have 3 distinct school zones by the African American community was to contact the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and 5 mothers and their children filed a lawsuit against the Hillsboro School Board. They sued the Hillsboro School Board over the alleged policy of segregation.
My mother became involved in the Lincoln School fight because of the Brown versus Board of Education's decision. She became an activist because she wasn't happy with the situation of Lincoln School was going there, and she thought it was substandard to the other schools. It just wasn't fair, wasn't right. So she saw something wasn't fair or right. She felt she had to write it. My mother was a very quiet, sometimes timid person, and she didn't stand for no foolishness.
My mom, she went through the Depression and would often tell me about how they did without actually food. So she knew what it was like to really struggle.
My mother, Zella M. Cumberland, she was always brave. She was fearless in nothing. She was always ready to fight for us. I knew she was always there to protect me.
My mother and Miss Imogene Curtis we lived right next door. And I can remember Miss Imogene and Mom always talked over the fence. And Miss Imogene and Mom and a couple of other mothers decided we're going to start marching.
I recall my mom waking me up, getting me dressed for school. And it was just a regular school day to me because that was our routine.
We would always meet in front of Miss Sally's house, and then we would start the march.
We marched from where we lived on Walnut all the way to the Webster School every morning.
Is my mother. This is my sister. This is me.
We would march from the East End to Webster School as if we expected to be admitted. We would get there, then the principal would come out. He would say, "Sorry, ladies, nothing has changed."
And if they didn't let us in, then we'd turn around, go back home.
I remember one time we went in and we sit down on the floor in the hall, but we was escorted out.
2 or 3 months was something, but when we went for 2 years, every day, rain or shine, and I'm like, it makes no sense. Why did we have to continue to do the same thing over and over when we knew they weren't going to let us in?
There was one building we went by, and it was always a bunch of men standing out looking at us. And we had to be careful because they would also, when we walked to the grocery store, would call us names and stuff.
Some of the mothers worked in homes doing day jobs, and their employees would tell them, if you don't take your children out of the march, you won't have a job. So some of them did take their children out.
While the march was going on one night, there was a cross burned.
We heard the commotion. One of the crosses was burnt down the street from where we lived. And then the other cross was burnt up on the hill, and you could see the fire. We were kind of afraid being kids because you didn't know what to expect.
At 8, I worried if we would be burned. You know what I mean? If one night somebody would come and burn in our yard and how that would affect us. Would somebody get physical? If they did, what would we do with just these little kids and 5 mothers?
Well, I think all of us had some fear, but we had to just keep pushing.
The mothers carried signs. They were very quiet and peaceful, but it's not something we talked about at school. In fact, Mrs. Calvert would go over and pull the window blinds down. She would pull the blinds down and not say anything about what was going on outside.
The mothers knew that we had to have some type of training or education. And so the Quaker said that they would come over and help teach us.
And my mother agreed to be one of the teachers that went to Hillsboro. I remember when I heard Mom was going to do this, I'm going to be teased at school. And I was a little bit when people found out, but it wasn't bad.
They would come the first part of the week, give us lesson plans, and then the mothers that were doing the teaching in the homes, they would help us do our lessons. And that's how we did for 2 years.
3rd grade Marshall knew about the Hillsboro case and supported it. So the National Association for Advancement of Colored People provided lawyers to help the Hillsboro Marching Mothers present their case in the legal system. reason this is significant is because it was the first Northern test case after the Brown versus Board of Education decision. And it was really a case to see in practical terms what the judgment of the Supreme Court meant in reality.
Well, after the lawsuit was won, I think the mothers were very happy.
I was glad for them because they needed the education, they needed the fellowship with the other children. Everybody was glad because we didn't have to do all that walking. That was part of it was over with. But it was a new experience because we had never been in an integrated school. And some of the children liked us and some didn't.
Well, at first it wasn't as bad as we thought it would be, but there was still a lot of segregation because I can remember when we went there, all of a sudden they decided to have this class. Well, we're gonna have class for slow learners.
After we got into the schools, we had to take a placement test to see where they were gonna put us in grades. And only one of them passed out of all the kids.
When they did let us in, I was put back 2 years. To this day, I've not gotten over that.
The kids, they look back and say, well, Mom, y'all didn't have it so easy. And we said, we know that, but the fight was worth it.
I feel enormous pride about what we did, enormous pride in my mother for standing up the way she did.
I am very proud of what she did. It's one thing to believe in something, but to follow what you believe is most important.
Well, I would like the younger children to know that the march was to give them a better life.
Well, I done the best I could because I wanted my children to get an education. I wanted them to prosper in life.
They found the courage to act. And I believe it can be an inspiration to us today as we face increasing racial tensions, political divides. We can look to our own hearts to find that courage and to know that we can make a difference in the world through nonviolent protest.
I was proud of my mom. I thought my mom was superwoman.
Everybody in your family is so proud that you are our mother and that you fought for all of us and the whole community with the rest of the parents.
Yes.
So yes, we are very proud of you and we love you so much for it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully you all tuning in tonight enjoyed that presentation and really received something as a result of learning about Highland County's desegregation of schools. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce our Lincoln Marching Mothers, and let me unmute you guys. There you go. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, I'd like to introduce you ladies if you'd like to go and tell us your names and kind of how you were involved in this protest.
Who starts? Hello, I'm Virginia Harewood. I was one of the marchers, and I was 8 years old when this took place. That's my mom, the older lady. She was 105. Anyway, I was one of the marchers.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Curtis Cumberland. Imogene Curtis was my mother. And my brother, John, he marched. He's a little boy at the front row holding a sign. I'm involved with this group to keep my mother's memory and accomplishments alive. Thank you.
I'm Teresa Williams, and Sally Williams was one of the marching mothers and a home teacher, and she had 4 children in the march.
My name is Myra Phillips. It was Cumberland Phillips. My mom was one of the marching mothers, and I was one of the marching kids. And my mom passed away 2 years ago.
And my name is Joyce Clemens Kittriell, and I was the planning for the case. And I just enjoyed being able to sit here and see that come again, and to let you know that we do represent our mothers who we do love and appreciate what they did for us.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Stewart Billings, and my mother was Elsie Young. She died last year. 2 days after her birthday, her 105th birthday. But we were very proud of her and all the mothers in that group.
Thank you, ladies, so much for introducing yourselves. From a history standpoint, am very curious how the project, as in the video, and you guys getting to share this message came about. I actually had never watched the video until tonight, and it was a treat for me. So, do you guys mind explaining kind of how the video came to be or how the project came to be?
Just gonna do that. One of you guys do that. Well, the Historical Society, I don't know if I can do it. Proud. But the Historical Society is who got this started. Katie Burwinkle, Debbie Carroll, and her husband Tim, John Glaze, and some other members of the Historic about the story, and we just started working on it. That's how it got started. We met maybe once a month for a while until we got things set up, and went on from there.
Very cool. It's pretty amazing to see, I think, how it's grown, and starting at the Historical Society, and now, from my understanding, you guys are receiving funding or support from Ohio Humanities, and it's really taken off. I think it just goes to show that local history is so important, and it doesn't have to be like the big level, national, state history. I mean, it started in a small town rural community, and this is something that you guys have the opportunity to share, potentially nationwide, worldwide, which I think is amazing. So I was curious at the end, and I don't remember the mother's name, but she marched with MLK. Is her daughter here by chance?
That's me.
Okay. Can you speak to that experience and what that was like for your family?
Well, we were proud that our mother was a part of it. And she was proud and happy to have been a part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was her dream to march with Dr. King.
Very cool. As I mentioned, this for me was the first time watching the video, and the touches on Quakers and their peaceful movements and nonviolence, I think really ring true to the approaches that you guys took as families and mothers and children. Clinton County is a huge Quaker community, and we still have Quakers active in the area. Jim Hackney is actually part of our genealogy society, so it was really great to see him. I had no clue that he was involved with that, and I think having that local connection is amazing. I guess, what would you guys say, for the peaceful, pacifist, nonviolent approach? What was your takeaway from that? Maybe as a child, learning that violence is not always the answer.
Come on, somebody. We wanted to say that back then we were young children, as you said, and during those days, our parents were very protective of us too. And to say that we were more into seeing things happen, because I was a nosy child. I have to be truthful with that, because I remember Miss Hamilton and my mom would talk over the fence. I would always have an excuse to sit there and listen to what they were saying. And I think when we listened to what they were saying, helped me to understand a little bit more of what was happening. And so I think that we were able to be more closer even together to understand what was really happening. Because at that age, you don't really understand what's really happening, because at that age, you don't really understand the difference in color. And so during that period of time, I think that we learned a whole lot. And as we grew older, we really can thank Katie, because Katie has brought a lot to our memory right now, that we can say that we didn't really remember back at them days, but I can sit back and think about different things now as to how would a child in this stage, how would they be able to react to something like this? And the main thing is to let the children see and know what we went through, that if they're be careful of their life and how they live, that they will not have to go through the same thing. But yet, we as children, I'm going to say right now that I can continue to be a child, that if we were children, we would understand a little bit more of what's happening even today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful after we got through this, children will play with each other. I don't care who you are. You're not taught differences when you're a child unless you hear it in the home. And we had fun playing with any child. And when we got into school, we seen more differences. The way the teachers talked to you, the way they did your grades. We were taught the way the Quakers taught us. And I was upset because in our math, we would do the math problem. We'd get the same answer, but we didn't do the method that they were doing there. Our problem was wrong. And we couldn't understand that as a kid. Well, you had the right answer. But I'm thankful for all the trouble that we went through, because I see now how it has helped our children and our grandchildren. Because we didn't have it easy back there. And the kids nowadays have more opportunities because of that. And some of them don't appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple submitted questions that I would like to ask everybody. One of the questions submitted was the Quakers that came from Clinton County to help teach students. Did they incorporate the Highland County Quakers, or were all of the community Quakers from Clinton County? All from Clinton County. Okay. Well, here I am thinking this isn't about Clinton County. I was totally wrong. So my apologies. Elizabeth would just like to thank you all so much for sharing your story. She said all of you should be proud in your involvement and in keeping this piece of history alive, that she has really enjoyed the presentation. We also had a submitted question. I thought this was really interesting. What did the fathers think of their marching with the mothers? So what were the husbands thinking at this point?
And it was probably a good thing. I think that's the reason it was so peaceful, because the fathers weren't there.
Okay.
Yes. The fathers worked because they had to take care of the family, where the mothers were able to take and be with the children and to protect the children. So it was a situation that in order to live, they had to take and stay out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In the video, it had mentioned that some of the mothers had worked in larger homes in Hillsboro, and that, you know, if they were caught marching, that they were obviously their livelihood and their jobs were threatened. Did you guys experience any more like retaliation from the community, or like did you experience anything else on top of that?
Somebody asked us one time when they were interviewing, did we get angry with the kids that quit marching? No, we couldn't get mad at them for not being able to march. Their parents had to keep working. So anybody that stayed in the march, we were more than glad to work with them. And the ones that they went back to Lincoln School because of the threat of losing their job, the parents wouldn't have no job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Were there any, you know, from a historical standpoint in Clinton County, we had a couple businesses during segregation that just simply would not serve African American people. Did you guys experience that obviously in Highland County, Hillsboro as well?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. You have to go into the restaurant, order your food at the counter, and they give it to you in a bag, and you carried it out.
I know there used to be a little 5 and dime store up there, and I didn't like going in there. And there was a little Sunday store next door, I think it was. And every time a black person went in that store, I didn't know what it meant at first. 2 B, please. 2 blacks was in the store. What B? You would see somebody following you around. And I got so mad one day, and I told that woman, you ain't got nothing in here worth me still.
Another thing is, I remember my mother worked for some people, but my mother was not allowed to take us inside. We had to walk around into the back and stand and wait on her to come out. Even though she worked for them, we was not allowed to go inside the place.
Oh, wow.
But it was always like that in a lot of places. Yes. At the movie theater, there was a black set. Thank you, section. Whites sit on one side, the blacks on the other. I mean, it was that way everywhere, just certain places that you couldn't go. You weren't, and I wouldn't go because I wouldn't want it.
But was anybody ever told that this is the black section, this is the white
When they
section?
had the ushers.
I don't know.
Yeah, they had ushers.
Because she made the comment, it was just the way it was. She sounded
She
like
never
it
went to the
was.
show.
You know, we tried.
And
We
if you were
tried
set
to
in any other area, they would tell you, you're not allowed to sit here. You have to leave.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't
didn't
know
try
that.
to
Well, I
find
had
you.
a white friend that I went to school with, and he said, "Does that really happen?" I said, "Yeah, I'll prove it to you." I went down and sit in the middle, and the usher come down and said, "Ma'am, would you please move back in?" That was all was said.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so for in Clinton County, one of our more well-known or historically documented African Americans who worked to desegregate Clinton County schools would be Charles Hammy Graham. Did any of you guys know him? He has, passed. I think he passed like in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you kind of touch upon Hammy? Like, I would love to know kind of more about him as well.
Well, my husband, he speaks of Hammy today quite often, the business person that he was. When my husband, he started working in the foundry. He put his age up because he wasn't really old enough. And Hammy would give him credit to get food at the restaurant until he got his check. And he's appreciative of Hammy and his business sense, and his treatment, and his reputation in the community. He's well remembered. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish we had been able to document the history and the stories like you guys have been able to, because writing a newspaper article about Hammy is great, but being able to speak to them or experience in the video like you guys present is so much more meaningful, and that is something that is sad because it's gone, and it's unable to be retrieved and documented in a way that can relate to all ages. So having the video, I think, is wonderful. I can't speak enough on that. We have a couple more submitted questions. Somebody asked, did any of you want to join or get more involved with the Quaker faith as a result of your experiences with Quakers?
I would say, really, right now, I'm going to say I went to a church and had some Quakers that come in every often because the Women's College had a class where you could take, they had about 5 different types of religions, and you could take and join that class. And to me, the Quakers was the one that we didn't get to go visit that one time, and to hear what they've done, I really would love to got to go to one. But it seemed like back then we didn't leave our Baptist church, to go to something else. So
yeah, absolutely.
Today I love to go to a Quaker church.
But New Hope visited the Quaker church.
Yeah, they did.
Tell them the choir. Yeah.
Personally, I was born a Baptist. I was raised a Baptist all my life, and I'll probably die a Baptist.
Amen. Yes. Another question that we received. So I think you guys had briefly touched upon this, like you didn't feel like as a child you knew what color was, or white versus black was not in your mind as a kid. Do you feel that obviously people were trained or they learned to be discriminatory? Or would you guys say that it was more of a learned behavior rather than something that as a kid you had? Can you guys hear me?
No.
Oh, that's okay. I think we had a technical glitch. The question that we received was about are we born discriminatory or do we learn that? You know, I think you guys touched upon as childs, you really didn't see black and white.
We missed your question. We did.
Yeah, we didn't have you on.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'll repeat it again. That is totally fine. Technology is so fun. You guys had briefly talked about as children, you really didn't see color. Would you guys agree that it's more of a learned behavior and something that, you know, as you get older, you form an opinion, or kind of, can you guys touch upon, you know, not seeing color or being discriminatory?
Well, I can't say that I didn't see color. I mean, anybody can see color, you know, but we were in segregated neighborhoods. We played with our own friends in our own neighborhood, and the white neighborhoods pretty much stayed in their neighborhood. I never had white friends until after I graduated high school and went into the workforce. If I went through 4 years at Hillsboro High School, I never had a white friend. We were still isolated there unless you were in sports, and then you were in the mix.
Okay.
Where I lived on Walnut, we had kids that come off of Key Street, East Main, to play with us down on Walnut. I don't remember going to their house, but they would come to ours. And when they grew up, and I was in high school with a couple of them, the one that lived on Key Street, he had, after in high school, he had a little difference. The ones on East Main, I went to school with them. I didn't have a problem with them at the high school. So we just didn't mix.
We all the blacks lived in the black neighbor. You know, it was a black neighborhood. We couldn't move into your area, and as kids, we played with the people around us. You know, I wasn't around the white kids until this all happened.
We still knew color. We knew they were white kids. They knew they were black kids. So they say you don't see color.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I understand that.
Not to be prejudiced, though.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. What would you guys say? You know, being able to look back and learning what you've learned now. Where are we at? You know, maybe as a community or as a country. Maybe just touch upon, you know, how you feel today, having participated in the marches.
I'm glad we did. I'm proud
Yes, I'm proud of what came out of what we did. If that hadn't happened, we may still be where we were.
And you're inducted into the hall.
Yeah. We've come a long way as a race, but we still got a ways to go. Yeah. I remember telling my sister, she was born the year I graduated. And I told her when she got her job at the, what do you call it, when they investigate for the human services, she was an investigator. And my daughter Carla, she graduated and got her doctorate degree. We have a medical doctor in the family. We had several working in the prison system. So I told her one day, I said, well, they tried to keep us from getting an education, but I thank God y'all got something out of it.
Right. And then too, you have to realize too, think about our mothers. They only went to the 8th grade, majority of them. but look how they made it in life. And so it was a thing that as a child today, the most important thing in my life right now is to see that these kids see what has happened, that they can make life even a little bit better. Because I've received letters from, like, even Teresa's daughter, and a couple of people sent me letters telling me they was glad that we went through what we went through to teach them and help them get where they are. So the most important thing in life, even today, is that we went through this for a purpose. And thank God that we was able to make it through it. And the main thing now is to teach our children, don't look at color. Even though we may be different in color, God created us all the same. So the most important thing in life today is try to understand that we are all humans. We all have the same blood. And so for us to live together, we have to become one and understand each one of us have a purpose in life.
Absolutely, yes. Now, I know when I was organizing this with Katie, are there any mothers still living, or are you guys second generation?
My mother was the last of the mothers. She turned 105 on the 2nd of July last year.
She turned 105 on the 30th of June.
I'm sorry, yeah, she turned on the 30th of June was her birthday, and she passed away at 105.
Okay.
But all the other mothers are previously gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems so long ago, but also so short ago, because you guys are here as children who experienced this. But when you say the 1950s, you're like, oh, that was a while ago. But in reality, it's not. I mean, it was just back in the day, honestly. Yeah.
We're not marching now, but we're all walking in our mother's shoes.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great, you need to TM that. That's a good one.
That's the truth.
Was good.
Yes. So I don't see any other additional guest questions coming in. We have about 5 more minutes left before we end. Can each of you guys just maybe leave us with like a lasting thought or a lasting sentence that you would like to share with our attendees tonight?
Yeah, okay. I just wish that the young people today put every effort to get a good education and stick with it. A lot of kids back in our day quit school, but that's one thing my mom said: you won't quit, you're gonna graduate. So we did. Yes.
Oh no, it's just something.
Would anybody else like to leave a lasting thought or a message for our viewers tonight?
No, I think today that for the viewers that are looking in on this, that there's a purpose in life for our children, and for us to stand firm and let them know, don't ever say I can't. I can do it. And today, that's one of my main things to tell the children, that never say no, I can't, because you can do anything, even if you have to try it 2 or 3 times. You can do it.
There's some adults that need to think the same way.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to mention, Shelby, is that these ladies were all inducted into the Ohio Civil Rights Hall of Fame and received medals, and that's pretty exciting. So just wanted to point that out.
Yes, congratulations, and that is an amazing honor as well. And Katie, do you want to touch upon like what the future of the project holds? Or I know you guys are working with Ohio History Connection. If you just like to give a brief little plug for the project.
I'm like popping my head in the side. The project is turning 5 years old this summer, and we've kind of renewed our relationship with Ohio Humanities. Not that it ever really ended, but we're actively involved right now in some projects. They just signed a contract with an author to write a children's book on the march, and that has just been done. We're putting a new introduction on the film and getting ready for a re-release this year. They're going to put some civil rights commentators sort of at the beginning of the film to give it some perspective. And then they're going to, one of the projects is to get it into Ohio schools. There's all, just trying to think of some of the other things that we've been doing. What's that?
Smithsonian.
The Smithsonian magazine, the Smithsonian Museums magazine is doing an article about it. We were in today's Washington Post about the book, the Black History of Highland County book that was done. That was so we actually have a lot going on right now. So it's pretty exciting to see the faith that Ohio Humanities has in the project, and that it's still going places. So lots going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you guys are only going to grow from here. Like I mentioned earlier, the more people that hear about this, I think the more interest is going to grow. And this was the first time I watched the video and just being blown away by the connections, the courage, the strength. I mean, that was a time when a lot of people didn't speak out and a lot of people were too afraid. So to have the courage, I think is amazing for my opinion, for what it's worth.
And we've also had, Rebecca Hackney. Rebecca Godfrey Hackney.
Yes.
I don't know if she's. I don't know if she's on the thing tonight, but we've had a relationship with them, the Hackney family. We have a lot of connections with this project with Wilmington. Dr. John Bryant of Wilmington, he was involved with Wilmington College. He was a big supporter of this project way back in the beginning, and actually went to Ohio Humanities and said, "You will support this project." And so we have quite a bit of a Wilmington connection in this story.
That's amazing.
As a group, we would like to thank the Historical Society here for having the courage to take this thing on, because we didn't know nothing about how to do it or nothing. And they have put up with us and stuck it out with us.
We've become a family.
Yeah, that is definitely a testament to what Highland County Museum can do. And I have big goals and big dreams of doing stuff that's very similar. But working at a nonprofit and being able to put out what they put out, I think is a huge testament to them, because that was a lot of man hours, a lot of video, a lot of oral histories. Like those normally take at least an hour to complete. So kudos to them for sure, because I know all the work that probably went into that for sure. Yeah. Katie, you had touched on Rebecca. I think she might be involved with, I think, the Harveysburg Free Black School.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes, she is.
And I know that they're trying to get on their feet as well and trying to save that building and get opened and things. So there's a lot of conversations going on locally in the county, surrounding counties, community. I think it's really good conversation, and it's going to be around for a while, which is exciting, because I always like to, when I do presentations or discuss things, like Clinton County's history, such as Highland County's history, everybody has history. It's not just one group. It's not one people. Everybody should be highlighted and have their past told. So I think that you guys are doing a great job at that. But before we go, it is just past 8. I don't have any other questions, so I think we will wrap it up. But for everyone that attended, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I really hope that you enjoyed our Black History Month presentation with the Lincoln Marching Mothers and their children. And thank you, ladies, for spending some of your time with us tonight, because I'm sure you're all very busy.
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. And I'm honored to have the ability to share your guys' story with our community. So thank you. If you guys would like to find out more about the History Center in Clinton County, please visit our website, clintoncountyhistory.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And we did record tonight's presentation, so that will be going online shortly. So you guys can share that for later. And then if you'd like to learn more about the Highland County Historical Society, I know they have a Facebook and they have a website, so Highland County Historical Society. And then if you would like to visit the Lincoln Marching Mothers website, it is Lincoln School Hillsboro, Ohio.weebly.com. And they have plenty of pictures and a lot of good information on there. So with that, we will wrap up tonight's Black History Month presentation, which also kind of runs into Women's History Month, which is so cool. But ladies, thank you again so much. And I really hope I get another opportunity to chat with you soon. So have a great evening and keep doing what you're doing, because you guys are making me. Thank you guys. Have a great evening. And thank you everyone who tuned in.